Good evening, everybody. We've still got lots of people on their way in to join, but we've got a really packed agenda for you for our 1 hour this evening. And we want to make sure that that you get everything you need to know about this brilliant program. I'm Vivian Porritt. I'm one of the strategic leaders of Women Ed. And is Rachel there, or have I just lost Rachel? Where's she gone? No? Is Rachel there? Oh, that's a good
Vivian,
start.
my screen just said that she'd left.
All right, so
I'm
there
sure
must be
she'll be back.
something has happened for her there. Well, Rachel is my fellow conspirator in this evening in terms of wanting to be sure that you know everything you need to know about the master's program. And it's combined with an apprenticeship, and we're talking this evening a little bit about the program, but also about the Women Ed cohort within it, and that's the key focus. What I'm going to have to do is just give it a couple more minutes, because if Rachel's not being able to admit anybody, then I need to keep going with them. Okay, so I'm going to share my screen, and the easiest way for you to see me quite clearly then, obviously when I'm speaking, is a kind of like speaker side-by-side view that I've learned works really well. So I'm going to share my screen to give you a bit of an introduction, and after that it's all talking about things. Hi Elaine, lovely to see you. Right, here we go. Now, I don't think that's worked, so I'm going to have to stop. But that's fine, because I can let people in. Just give me a moment. Right, ready to go. I hope, fingers crossed. Otherwise, I'll just do it ordinarily. Can you see my screen there, everybody? Shirley, yes, thank you very much indeed, then. Sorry, it's not letting me do it from my end. Sorry. Just admitting more.
Rachel's back.
Rachel's back, super duper. That's what we were all waiting for.
Apologies, colleagues. My internet is being really dodgy, so I do apologise.
No problem whatsoever. Right, hopefully everybody can see me and everybody could see our screen. Can you see that, Rachel? Super duper. Okay. I've explained that we're here to talk about the Senior Leadership Masters combined with the apprenticeship programme from the National College, with whom we are working in partnership. And the important information on that screen for most of you as senior leaders are wanting to be, is that as long as your school supports the levy, then it's fully funded for you. So the school is already paid in effect. And some organisations don't work in that way. So that's why there's an application process to find out more about how you can work through this. And that's the information we want to give you. But I want to start first of all with why. Why are we wanting to do this master's programme with a Women Ed cohort? All women, a lot of Rachel and I, wave Rachel so people can see you. Rachel is works for NCE, and she's the senior leadership tutor for the Women Ed cohort. So you get your own tutor, and you get me on occasions as well, and other members of Women Ed that start to join in and come and get engaged in the programme. So our why. Hopefully most of you know our Women Ed mission, which is there very clearly, because women, not all women, but a lot of women have a completely different leadership journey to men. Men who go straight up that metaphorical ladder. Women have a much more climbing frame kind of journey to leadership. On, off, sideways, up, come down again, go off again, join it. And that's fine. There's no problems with that at all. Because you're going to work till you're 68, all of you, from now on anyway, so you've got loads and loads of time to do this leadership journey. And the reason we want to do this is because Women Ed and the National College of Education are aligned in this mission. The National College of Education wants more senior leaders in schools who are learning the kind of concepts and thinking that is shared in the master's programme and also in the apprenticeship programme. And Women Ed want to see more senior leaders in schools who are women. And so we're absolutely aligned on the same issues. And also, that's it. And also on the same values. So these are the Women Ed values, if you haven't seen them before, are 8 C's. We want to give you some clarity this evening about the master's programme and the Women Ed cohort and why we would recommend it. In particular, we want to give you confidence that you can do that. It's a fabulous community. So it's almost like a Women Ed community within Women Ed of the learners on the programme. And they are certainly challenged, and they are certainly up for bringing about change. And why we really like working with the National College is they are disruptors, and so are we. So we've got a pair of disruptors who want to change the picture of what leadership looks like in terms of how it is, how leadership happens. We want to do leadership differently, and we also want to change the face of leadership. We want women, senior leaders, working across the sector. The other why we have in Women Ed, in working in collaboration with the National College, are these campaigns. These are the 4 areas of focus which we think are really important for the education system. So we do want more women in leadership roles and in senior leadership roles. And we want to increase the diversity of women in leadership roles, both in terms of ethnicity, in terms of sexual orientation, age. We want more mothers to be able to be senior leaders in schools. People with a disability need greater access to leadership roles. The whole gamut of flexible, diverse thinking. And as part of that, this programme for the Women Ed cohort, we've reserved 20% of the places for women of an ethnic heritage. And we think that's really, really important. So we want to see more women, and we want to see more women of an ethnic heritage in that leadership. And the current participants will have heard me bang on about the gender pay gap at every single opportunity I've had, as well as for flexible working practices. And the joy of this programme with the National College is that there are 500 learners this year engaging with this mastership programme, and we all experience the same curriculum and learning. So all of the issues that we're talking about here are shared with the whole master's programme, all the attendees. And then the Women Ed cohort gets even more specialist support and thinking and talking about how this works. So we think this is a super, super opportunity. And this is what we want to see more of. The reason I'm sharing this, and Christella will be reminiscing as much as I, is the last face-to-face event we got to for Women Ed, I got to, was the Women Ed London Unconference, a couple of weeks' time. And this was a pledge that was made, and this was an outcome from that pledge. And that's what we do in the Women Ed cohort. We challenge each other as to what is possible and what can be achieved. And then we celebrate the heck out of it, because we want both of those aspects within it. So you get a mini little Women Ed event pretty much every time the cohort comes together. It was brilliant on the for this year's cohort that everybody got a copy of 10% Braver. We're going to twist Nick's arm to give everybody a copy of Being 10% Braver next year. And a lot of the thinking in the programs are coming from the work in these two books. This is how we want to be able to move the whole system forward. And so here's your challenge for this evening. Our most recent book is now about being 10% braver. And this is our Women Ed challenge to you this evening. This needs to be your year of being more brave. And one of the ways you can do that is by joining this groundbreaking, innovative partnership with the National College and the Women Ed cohort for the Master's Apprenticeship Programme. So I'm going to stop sharing, and I'd like to introduce you properly to Rachel O'Halloran, who's the Senior Leadership Tutor at the National College, specifically there to ensure that you get the best support and the best help possible. And there have been some wonderful tweets about Rachel's huge immensity of support to people. So thank you very much for joining us, Rachel, this evening. Over to you.
Thank you, Vivian. It's an absolute pleasure. I'll talk about how to apply at the end. So basically what we do at the National College is we give you a 2-year programme, and we utilise the levy from the apprenticeship, which all schools and all organisations who have a wage bill of over £3 million have to pay into. And if that money is not used, the apprenticeship levy, if it's not used for professional development, it just goes back in tax to the government, which is not something we want to do. We want to really use that money to drive professional development within our profession. And the apprenticeship part, the kind of level 7 senior leadership apprenticeship programme, is all about putting knowledge into practice in a safe space. So the difference between us, I guess, and just going and doing a master's is extremely theoretical and you learn lots of stuff, and that's what you do with it. But on the apprenticeship programme, what you do is you have that knowledge piece. We run 2-day knowledge seminars and lectures where we have professional learning days with themes, and you can find out all about those 4 sessions that we do. But then as a group in the apprenticeship, we look at, so what does that mean for us? What skills and knowledge and behaviours can we develop as senior leaders in order to enhance our ability to improve outcomes for students and people? And as part of the apprenticeship, you have to make progress against these standards, but it's basically looking at the work that you're already doing and bringing to bear upon that work your new knowledge that you have gained as a result of being on that programme. We have to battle with things like OneFile, which is a system which Debbie in particular enjoys immensely. But it's all about, for me, how can we work together to lift one another up to ensure we have more women as senior leaders delivering the outcomes that we know women can. So part of what we do in the Women Ed group is we have peer learning groups. So there's about 65 of us now actually on the the group. But within that, we have groups of 10 to 15, which is a hugely supportive thing to be able to do, and a network that's being created. And I think probably friendships for life. So that's one of the benefits of the additionality that we bring, is this ability not just to have Women Ed, 65 of us, but within Women Ed to have your tight group who will support you through some of the bits, you know, when you're pulling your hair out doing these essays and things like that for the masters. It's really important to us at the National College that we are disruptive. There are not enough women in senior leadership. And we have seen what female senior leaders can do, not just in our sector, but in others. And we really want to drive and support that. One of our values is innovation, and we continue to innovate in the way that we use this apprenticeship levy in order to get you the best professional development. And having this collaboration with Women Ed means what we can do is have monthly engagement sessions where Vivian and I think about and create and craft specific sessions, often pulling on the threads from modules, but looking at the problems that we face as female leaders and working together to provide solutions and problem solve and support one another, which I think is fairly unique. I don't know anyone else who does that, or anyone else who has the opportunity to do that. Part of my job is just to support and guide you, problem solve with you. I'm pretty responsive, I think. If people message me, I'm usually straight on Teams with them going, come on, let's have a chat, we'll sort this one out. And it's a real privilege and a pleasure to do this role. So I get to work with everybody, it's fantastic. But I'm going to invite a couple of our current participants who started in the summer to just tell you a little bit about it from their point of view. So Natalie, would you mind just unmiking and having a 2-minute concise, as we do at Women Ed, description of your experience to date?
Yeah, of course. So hi everybody, I'm Natalie Corriette. I am a head of year 12. So I'm actually a middle leader rather than senior leader. And I think that was part of my slight concerns a little bit, and my doubt in myself at the beginning was that I didn't think I'd be accepted onto the course. I didn't necessarily think I was good enough to be on the course. And that's something that I've really kind of started to get rid of, that imposter syndrome, since being a part of the program. And I think for me, it wasn't necessarily so much that I'd ever been told that I wasn't good enough. I hadn't had that issue. It was just that I hadn't necessarily been told that I was. And being a part of the program, you are told that, and you do have that fantastic network that Rachel was speaking about as well, where you can go to these friends. And it's really weird because I've never met any of these people, but I feel like I have, having to work online. So, but having those messages, having that contact, having people who understand some of the struggles and some of the difficulties that you go through as a female leader, and kind of help to alleviate some of those doubts as well. So I've loved being a part of the program. I've learned so much, not just in terms of the official seminars and the academic side, but also learning from the people that I'm working with, and getting some of their experiences as well. So I would definitely recommend it. I've loved it. I've loved what it's been so far, and I look forward to what else it gives me going forward.
Thank you so much, Natalie. And I think what I didn't say before was this is not just a programme for teachers. This is for everyone who works in educational leadership. For business managers, we have Shirley online with us this evening, who does that role. So it's for people across education, not just for those who work in teaching, but we do have another teacher, assistant head with us this evening, Julie. Julie, would you mind unmiking and just telling us about your experience?
Yeah, thank you. Good evening, everyone. So yeah, a lot of what Natalie says there absolutely resonates with me. Imposter syndrome is something that I've struggled with for years. And for those of you who are actually quite new to Women Ed, I mean, I can't kind of recall my career before Women Ed. Everything just kind of kicked into action from that moment on. My first unconference, which I think was 3 years ago, maybe. Since then, I've been strong enough to negotiate my salary, moving into senior leadership twice, in fact. I have run 2 events to support middle leaders moving into senior leadership. One of them is working locally with Women Ed representatives. I've made a ton of new friends, some virtual, some in real life, and absolutely they will be for life. It's like walking into the staff room and having your meltdown and everyone going, it's okay, you'll be fine. And really for me, what I've noticed in terms of what Women Ed has done for me as a leader is understand the importance of paying that forward. So I've got all these women, I call them the army, this army of Women Ed members who are behind me, whether I'm in a difficult meeting, at a job interview, whatever, really pushing me and reminding me that I'm just as capable as anyone else in that room. And so I really have an obligation and a duty to pay that forward and identify those women that I work with who perhaps haven't been identified by anyone else as having those skills and that ability to move on and up the ladder or wherever it is, whatever direction they want to go in. And certainly having, and it was through the Women Ed network that I was identified as someone, Vivian, in fact, who said, you should be applying for this course. And absolutely, I thought, it's not the right time, and it's never going to feel like the right time, especially when you've got the responsibilities that we all have, whether you're a middle leader, a school business manager, etc. But it is the right time for you. And the reason I believe it's the right time for all of you is that I've never been on a course like this with this level of challenge, but have the support as well. Whether I'm having a meltdown or whether I'm having a really good day, there is somebody within the network who is cheering me on and lifting me up and really thinking about everything that's happened in the last year in terms of having to work virtually and how difficult and how disconnected we all feel. This learning community is so dynamic and so close-knit. I can't imagine what face-to-face learning with the NCE is going to look like. It'll be like, I don't know, the fire festival that actually did happen, because really it just feels like a little family. And the fact that there are so many people in the cohort, and yet, as Rachel said, I'll ping her an email and half an hour later I've got a response, let's catch up, or a little bit of advice, or I've never known anything like it in any of the studying that I've done. And what the apprenticeship element has done is really helped me to understand that I'm doing the do. Actually, this isn't so much about a journey for me as it is that, really demonstrating to myself that there's a lot that I do already that makes me the leader that actually I thought for a long time I need to become. I'm already that leader. And what this is doing is helping me to really establish myself and move on. One of the big things that has really kind of changed my way of thinking is the modules around leadership. So looking, for example, at equalities, looking at things like diversity within leadership and diversity within schools. So my next project, once I've got COVID testing out of the way, is going to be working with my head teacher on reviewing the equalities policy, looking at recruitment and retention and what we're doing there in terms of equalities and diversity. Because what I want to do when I leave that school is know that I've made a mark that's going to last. So yeah, sign up. It's awesome.
Thank you, Julie. I'm going to pass to Vivian now, because I think she's going to put us into breakout rooms. And we have other Women Ed current participants online who are going to be in those rooms to talk to you and answer any questions that you might have. You're on mute, Vivian.
Thank you very, very much, Julie, and thank you very much, Natalie. Much appreciated. I'm going to cross my fingers with the breakout rooms, and that's where you're heading shortly. You should have in the room a current participant on the programme to talk with and ask them any questions that you want. That's for 10 minutes, if that's okay with everybody. So you've got to be quick with your questions, and then we'll come back here and find out more about how you actually apply for the programme. And keeping an eye on the chat as well while you're doing that, So magically whisked, I hope, to your rooms, and we'll see you in 10 minutes. Have you not gone to your rooms? Why haven't you gone to your rooms?
We could always, Vivian, do random rooms, and then if there are 2 of you in a room, come back into the main room and we'll put you in another one, as in 2 current people, if that's easier.
Hang on.
You mean Jeanette and I can't just have a chat then, Rachel?
Nope.
I don't understand why you've not gone into rooms then. You should have done. Now. Sorry, you're here on your own, aren't you? I don't know what.
I was just messaging Julie because I'm an ex-colleague of Julie's, and I was just messaging her saying, I'm in a breakout room by myself.
I'm going to.
Vivian, you're on mute. Do you want to make me co-host, see if I can help?
Well, given the number of people, we won't be able to get everybody back in time. I did everything on the instructions.
Let's just have 5 minutes in room, shall we?
Well,
give people a chance to chat.
but there's lots of people who aren't in rooms.
I don't think anybody's gone in, have they?
I went into a room by myself.
But that's what I'm saying. I can't get people to go into rooms, Rachel.
Can we do
I'm driving, so do I need to click something or press something to actually go into a room? Because I'm not going to be able to
No, it was all
do that because
for me, and
I've got this on loudspeaker.
It just hasn't worked.
Right, if we go into participants.
Sorry, Rachel.
I was just thinking, if you made me co-host, I might be able to just put people in random rooms.
I've forgotten how I do that.
As you can see, this is not a senior leadership in technology.
I've forgotten how. Well, I've got to find you, Rachel.
If you find me and press more, and then it should say make co-host.
Yeah.
Yeah, right. Let's see if I can put people in random breakout rooms.
While Rachel is doing that, are there any specific questions I can answer? If you give a wave. Oh, actually, maybe Christella, maybe we could go over to you, because I think I saw Claire arrive. And before we do breakout rooms, maybe you could explain to people why you're here and why you would recommend the course.
Absolutely. I was going to sing and dance, but I'll explain that. That sounds much better. I'm the executive head of 2 delightful schools in Tottenham, and when I took on the position, was absolutely thrilled to find out that one of my heads of school not only was a woman, she also had ambition. She'd just completed her MPQH and was starting to venture into looking into her master's. So I think it was simultaneous. I found it, she found it, and she commenced the course. What I've seen in her growing as an individual, I don't know if she's here listening actually, is that the same way Natalie was saying about imposter syndrome, this is just what we do as women. And we need to learn to undo that really quickly, because I feel that we're always overqualified for positions. I bet a lot of you are overqualified to be commencing this course. I've seen clarity in how my head of school presents now. I've seen her challenge in a way that she hasn't challenged before. I mean, she's literally been on the course for a term. The growth I've seen, the conversations we've had, the research she's shared has just made her into she was always fantastic. She was a great head of school. She should be a head teacher. she should have her own school in a very short amount of time. But this has given her the right tools to express herself in not only a coherent and an articulate manner, but in a powerful manner. And she communicates and gets her suggestions across in a way that not only empowers, but it also supports staff. And I feel that at one point in her career, her wings must have been clipped and she was seeking permission to do things. I feel that now she comes not seeking permission, she wants to share before commencing things. So that has the course has enabled her to find that own power within herself. She questions a lot of what she does still, and we question it together. And we've had a couple of sessions where we've met as a team with Rachel. We do, don't we? It's about half-termly little drop-ins. And I feel like a proud peacock and my feathers are always sprouting out, but it's not really my work. It's her work. It's how she embraces the areas that she's now discovering are her strengths. And she's also discovering with a great amount of clarity areas that she wants to develop. So things that she perhaps was reluctant because of manners. I think, why do we do this polite thing and think that our voice isn't as valued perhaps as others? And when I say others, I mean men. So I've seen her now actually suggest and move forward. And the other day she mentioned something minuscule in her eyes, but it was huge in mine. And I said, just lead it. I think it's an amazing idea. Lead it. She said, oh, what, me? I said, yeah, right, go ahead and do it. So I think what it's given her is not only has she broken that glass ceiling, she's flown way above it, and she's now breaking glass ceilings for other people. So we employ, an amount of single mums. We employ a huge percentage of our staff are from a BAME background. And she's seeing how we can not only be diverse and flexible in our provision, she's seeing how her bit of her puzzle fits in to be a facilitator for others. So we've both become door openers. I can't begin to tell you how happy I am that when we bring conflict to meetings, it's healthy conflict. When we challenge things, it's because we've got the betterment of our staff and our children at the heart of everything we do. When we're accused of being bossy, it's because we are the boss. So there's so many areas that she's grown in, but if you were to see her, you'll talk to her and she'll still blush because she's still empathetic, she's still compassionate, and she hasn't lost her identity. She's just really evolved from this seed into this blossoming, beautiful, beautiful flower. So
Christella, that's a wonderful point. If I could just stop you there.
Don't stop
just
me.
got that flower, just got that blooming flower image in my head now for the rest of the evening. That's super. Thank you so much, Christella. And I know you'd be happy if people contacted you on Twitter. Absolutely. To just continue the conversation. Rachel, as Rachel wondrously always does, has sorted the breakout rooms, I believe now. So we're going to give that another go already. And then we'll come back for Claire Price to give us some thoughts, and then we'll talk about the application process. So can you open the rooms, Rachel, or do I have to?
Ta-da!
Oh.
Make sure everybody can go. Hannah, have I not put you in one, or you've just not accepted it?
Oh, well, I'm driving, aren't I? So I said I can't touch my screen.
No, sorry, I said Hannah, not Sonia.
Oh, so
I'm so sorry, Sonia. I don't know how to get you into a room.
Is this Carrie? Is Carrie?
Carrie, are you in a room?
Well, I can hear you. So if I can hear you, then maybe I'm not in a room.
No, I guess you're not. Let me find you. It just says Carrie not joined because you're in the car, I guess. So you can't press join, can you?
No.
No. Okay, so would you like to ask us questions? That we have Vivian and I at your disposal, Carrie. Tell us a little bit about yourself. What's the role you do currently?
So I'm a new head teacher. I started the role in September 2020. I should have finished my MPQH in September, but because of COVID, it had to be extended because there were, elements that weren't delivered, and everybody had to get used to going online and things when we've been having residentials. So my submission will be March.
Right.
So it's about looking as to, what's next. From one of the things that made it attractive is because, school budget, I'm all okay for investing in myself and things in leadership, but, there's so many other people that I want to invest in and spend the school budget on, that it was the apprenticeship levy side of things, because I then sort of wouldn't feel guilty, because we're part of a multi-academy trust. So we've got 10 schools, and we actually really heavily invested in the apprenticeship programme anyway. So we're a special school, and we do have apprentices, and, we're really committed to getting people on that, journey for preparation for adulthood and going into employment and things. So, yeah, and I suppose the only query question I had was, I am a new head teacher. I generally pretty good with my own work-life balance and things, but just the realistic expectations of opportunities for feedback, because the type of person I tend to be is a bit of a last-minute Lucy. So if there's a deadline for an assignment, or if there's a deadline for something, I work to adrenaline and leave it last minute. And I suppose it's that opportunity that feedback wise, are the opportunities that if it's not quite up to scratch, or if it hasn't met the mark, or you've been way off, is there opportunity sort of for feedback?
We can't hear you, Rachel.
I keep pressing this button inadvertently, that cuts me off. So, Carrie, my job basically is to give you feedback. So, currently participants are completing an essay on strategic leadership. They use their women-ed PLGs to work together to offer some peer review. Sometimes I'll go into those groups with 2 or 3 people, and we might talk about structure, for example, or someone will send me a few pages and I'll give them some feedback on that. I don't tend to feedback on a 4,000 word full essay because I don't mark it, but I do give feedback and support and guidance and say, from what I've read, these are things you need to do. Same if you're doing an apprenticeship task. Part of my role again is to work with you to make sure that apprenticeship task meets the standards that we're aiming to achieve, and give you some support and challenge in there. So we're making sure all the time that we're pushing you to achieve the best that you can. So currently the task is looking at strategic leadership and what tools you can use for strategic leadership. And so, yeah, you get lots of feedback from me and from those people within your group who will support you.
Okay, yeah, no, that's great. I suppose that was my only question really. And then in regards to the the finance side and the apprenticeship, you said that the next part of this is going to be about how to apply and things like that. So all of that will be
so I will do that briefly at the end of the call, and then you can go online and go through the full process, but it's a very short process. It's an application form, it's a discussion with the sales team about applicability, then it's a call to check that you have the levy, and even if you're actually not signed up to the levy, there are other things that you can do anyway. So it's a fairly short application process. It's more about ensuring that you're suitable for the program so that you can be successful.
Yeah, okay, no, that's great. And when I did my MPQH, I actually did the women's only cohort. So
with Ambition, did you do that with Ambition? Yay.
Yeah, I did. Yeah.
So what you'll find, because I used to work for Ambition, and Vivian obviously has done lots of work with them as well, is they give excellent CPD, absolutely excellent. But what I think we do that's different is we do a lot more on the knowledge into practice piece. So if you're working on a piece of strategy, then we can help you develop that whilst you're doing it. So, my background is education. I have been a senior leader, I've been a head, I've been a deputy education director. So I understand your context. And so the continual support that I can give you is kind of current knowledge and experience and work with you on a piece. It's not you just do like you've done the MPQH, like a big project. You do ongoing work. And what you should see with the apprenticeship is that there is an impact almost straight away in the work that you do. So through that improved knowledge, and the first thing we looked at with this current cohort was talent management and succession planning. And for most people, it was the first time they'd ever thought about how you develop people in this way. So we use that knowledge from business and other sectors to help improve our sector, which again, I think is different potentially to what other programs offer.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's the practical element sounds good.
Yeah, and to me, you know, when I first came in to do this, I wanted to come and work with Vivian on Women Ed, and I thought, oh, the masters will be really interesting, and it is. But the knowledge into practice piece is the bit that I find the most useful and enjoy the most in talking to learners about, and seeing what's happening in your context, and then working with you to develop it.
Yeah, no, that's great, because the other, I'm not sure, but I'd looked at as well. So Liverpool John Moores are doing a sort of an online masters, you know, in conjunction where there's some subsidy. So,
Yeah.
but I've been having a look at that, and that seems quite isolated. You know, it seems like you'd be very alone, and you just plough through it yourself at a time. You know, so there's not a lot of opportunity for collaboration and networking, and yeah, so that's one of the other reasons I signed up to listen to this, to see what this one would involve and if it was different to that.
No, I think that's a good decision there, Carrie, because that you're certainly not on your own on this masters and apprenticeship. I think our 10 minutes is nearly up.
Yeah, shall I do a broadcast message to all that we've got back in 60 seconds? Right, I've sent that message.
Glad we could answer your questions then, Carrie.
Yeah, no, that's great. And this is very typical for me. So I leave work at 6. So for anything that's on 6 till 7, I have to just do it by listening. And I can't obviously watch screens or anything like that. So, but
I guess one of the beauties of the things that we do, Carrie, is that we record all our sessions. So after Vivian and I have delivered a session, I will the next day send you the recording if you haven't been able to make it. We recognise people have busy lives. We want people live so they contribute to the discussion and bring their expertise. But there is always the opportunity to revisit that learning. And, you know, look at the PowerPoints, do the task, and then pick it up later and talk to the people in your group.
Oh, that's great.
Yeah, and I think, you know, we've lost a lot of things, haven't we, about not having face-to-face. But if you went to a face-to-face session now, you don't then get the recording the next day, do you? Saying, watch this another 14 times. So you've really embed that learning. We don't get that. We're coming back in, Vivian, now.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, someone was just talking to me in the room and they've disappeared.
No.
If you've got any more questions, Camilla, put them in the chat.
Yeah, no, I think I just asked a question. I think her name is Kerry or something. Just press leave, so never mind.
We've got a question there, Rachel. Does anybody fail the course?
Not on my watch, Vivian. No.
I teed you up there perfectly, didn't I?
Yeah.
No woman left behind.
Absolutely.
Oh, that's a great
Absolutely.
phrase. That's our strap line. How many cohorts have there been? This is the first Women Ed cohort, but the Master's Apprenticeship Programme has been going on for a couple of years now, I believe, Rachel.
Yeah, it's cohort 4 that we're currently working with, and it is an iterative programme. We keep getting better. One of the highlights, actually, of Vivian coming on board is that we were able to look at content and ensure that it was more diverse, not just around female authors, but our BAME colleagues, etc., so that, you know, it's constantly improving. How long will it take? It takes more or less 2 years to complete.
Don't know. Do we think everybody's in?
Yes, we're all back.
We're all back. Lovely then. I hope that conversation was useful, short but useful, and the conversations can continue obviously on Twitter. Is Claire Price there?
I am very much here.
Super. Hello, Claire. Thank you very much. Claire is a member of the Women Ed England team, and they obviously are working with people throughout the country who are interested in these ideas. So Claire, a couple of minutes on your thoughts about this then.
Yeah, thank you. I am currently a school improvement leader across a trust, and I've been a principal of 2 schools and a head teacher, head of school of another, sorry. So I've got lots of experience, I suppose, of seeing women's leadership thwarted and amplified and pushed up. And I've just sat in a most like the absolute epitome of what women leadership looks like in our breakout room. I've sat there and listened to 2 people who are on this course, one a little bit further along than the other, absolutely oozing with passion, with confidence, with that absolutely I can do everything feeling about it. And then the nervous 3 or 4 other people who are thinking, can I do it? Am I the right person? Have I got the time? Have I got the skills? Have I got that? The answer is yes. The answer is, of course, you've got all of those things. And as women and as Women Ed, that is what we're about. We are working together to be able to make sure that we all stand on the shoulders of giants. We are those giants, and people will stand on our shoulders later on. I think that the key things that are coming from me is about how do we make that happen. Questions I keep seeing in the chat and I was listening to earlier on are about, have I got enough time to do it? Have I got enough experience to do it? Am I in the right place yet? And let me just put that all back to you. You're all senior leaders, you're or aspiring senior leaders on middle leadership to be able to get there. You've made the time to be those successful people. Look around in the room, look around in your senior leadership team and see how many men ask those questions. They don't ask those questions because they demand the time. They grab the time. This is about you doing that. Is the course going to be hard? Yeah, of course it is. It's really important. It's a master's degree, so it is going to be hard. But do you know what? You've done harder things. You're leading in a pandemic, and you're going to be doing it with people who care, who are collaborating, who are creating and curating your future with you, because that is the power of Women Ed. Women Ed was set up to be able to make sure that women like you had the confidence and the clarity to be able to go out and make more of yourself, to be the people you want to be, and to be the role models you should be. It's not right that you should be asking the questions, can I do it? Is this for me? Yes, it is. Take it and seize it, and be welcomed into the Women Ed community in particular. Join us to amplify the voices of others. Join us to make sure that we're all able to make sure that every young woman who's joining our profession now as an NQT believes her future is as a leader, and it's not just always dampened because she might have other things to do or her voice might not be heard. The most pithy quote I think I heard from Christella, and I know, Vivian, you like the flower. I love when people say we're bossy, they're damn right, we are the boss, and that's you. And you can boss this course, and you should absolutely apply it. You're absolutely the right people, and you absolutely will thrive on it.
Oh, thank you very much, Claire. Thank you. And I think it's important, would you agree, to reiterate that, you know, we want women from every region in England to apply. We don't want the North to be feeling that they are left out and the programme isn't for them. It absolutely is. Depending on the pandemic, it will continue as an online programme, and the Zoom meetings of 500 people are a thing of wonder to behold. If we're able to go back to face-to-face, dependent on the nature of the applications, the sessions would be around the country, so that if there's enough applications around the region, then everybody wouldn't have to travel too far for the learning days, the seminars. So let's get, you know, if you've got friends across all the regions in England, and you can hear my northern accent, so I'm really encouraging people from the north to apply, because we don't, on the whole, then really get them involved and let them know what's happening. Okay, then back to Rachel, who's going to explain to you what you need to do if you want to apply. Obviously, you can keep thinking about it and talking with us, but the application process is useful for you to know.
So I just wanted to come back to a couple of messages in the chat before I do that. The way that the course is currently structured is that we have 2 days that we call professional learning days, which are split into 4 knowledge lectures, and then time with your tutor to do some sense making around the knowledge that you've learned and think about what you're going to do next with it. That's how we currently do it, and we do that on a Thursday and a Friday. We don't do weekends because we think you need your weekends off. We tell you what those dates are so that you're able to speak to your line manager and ensure that you can meet those dates. We're really flexible. We recognise that you work in incredibly stressful situations at the moment, and that you need to be able to, on occasion, be the head teacher or the senior leader in the school. So for module 3, which is happening in a couple of weeks, we've made some decisions around making that more flexible for people. So we have asynchronous sessions that you can go off and watch before we actually go online or later when we've been online, and so that we give breaks during that time. We always say try and attend the knowledge sessions live, because then you have got people like Vivian delivering, and you get to ask questions and hear her speak. And we have a really wide variety of people who come and talk about finance and values and culture and strategic leadership and all these really important things from across the sectors. Because what we recognise is we know lots about education. We don't always know a lot about how to do the more complex things about running an organisation. We're often great with people, but we don't talent manage and succession plan in a way that businesses do as a matter of course. So we take that learning, we just suck the life out of everything we can to help you to become better leaders. So this is how you apply, and Sharon and Hannah are online in case I say something ridiculous, which isn't true. So you basically, to apply, you go to our website, which is www.nationaleducation.college. And you find your program, and our program is the Level 7 Senior Leadership Program. So that's when you find, you tick on apply now, and it tells you something about the program, about the modules, but the key thing that we want you to do is when it asks, how did you hear about us, you click on Ambassador Woman Ed. Okay, and that's how you select that you want to be in the Women Ed cohort, because there are lots of other groups going on at the same time. So we have around 50 in most groups. We're a little bit special on cohort 4. You'll be cohort 5. And we'll look for a group between about 40 and 60. So you need to click Ambassador Women Ed so that when you get through to people like Sharon, she can have that conversation with you. Once you've clicked through, you get to speak to someone like Sharon to see if your application is right, basically at the right level. And then it's a very short process. We talk to the person who's in charge of the money to make sure that you can draw down upon that apprenticeship, and we check that you've got the right qualifications. Sharon, have I missed anything out?
No, I think that's everything. Yeah, the inquiry form is a couple of minutes. You'll then get an automated application. But at any point, you can call me directly. I can answer your questions if anything hasn't been covered tonight. And then I will talk you through the process with the application. I will do your consultation calls, and I'll do all the work with your school to make sure that the funding is there, that your line manager knows what they're doing, and they're ready to support you and answer any questions that they have that you don't know the answer to or you want me to talk to them. So I can be as involved or as not involved as you wish.
And there's a good question that Sharon could answer there that's come up, that if somebody doesn't have the appropriate qualifications for this programme, would somebody like you, Sharon, on the end of the phone, direct them to the other opportunities the National College can offer?
Yeah, absolutely. We'll talk through what the qualifications have, might be able to help with those. There's been a few changes lately, so that's been music to my ears. But ultimately, you know, if you're not senior leadership, if you're middle leadership and you're not ready for this, and we have another program, we have other options as well. So yeah, absolutely, that's what we talk through.
Thank you, Sharon. So I think, are there any other questions that people want to ask? So Natalie, you're asking what are classed as the right qualifications. So you need an undergraduate degree, and you need your, do you not, Sharon? You're shaking your head at me.
No, you only need maths and English GCSEs officially.
Wow. You will all have a degree, I think, probably if you were working in schools, but officially you need maths and English, yeah.
There's a question about how many head teachers have done this programme. We've got Shirley Drummond with us, who's a current head teacher who started the programme. So we've got Jeanette, who was one of the contributors. There you go, she's waving it. Jeanette's become a head teacher during this programme. so that's
We've got Jacqueline.
Definitely,
Jacqueline's ahead. And the other thing I would say to you is, you know, it doesn't matter what setting you're in. It doesn't matter if you're in an independent school, a PRU, alternative provision. We really welcome diversity in terms of role and setting, because it just makes our discussions so much richer. And we can learn so much from one another, primary, secondary, all through. Whatever your setting is, that's valid, and we want to hear from you.
There are quite a few concerns that came up through the chat about that the head teacher or the school is not necessarily supportive of somebody doing this. And I suggested, first of all, I think this is a really common issue for women, and therefore we sometimes have to bite the bullet and say, hang on a minute, we've got to find a way around this because this isn't right. But as I understand it, Sharon, you would always talk a head teacher through about any concerns they had as to whether this was a useful or helpful opportunity.
Yeah, absolutely. The line manager, the head teacher, and I've had people on previous cohorts that are head teachers who have been happy to, you know, pick up the phone and talk to another head teacher and just run them through it or give them peace of mind, because that's what they're preferred, and it just is, they're doing the job. So sometimes, you know, my word's not as strong as, you know, somebody else's on the programme. So yeah, we're able to help be persuasive.
And I would say that one of the things that people are worried about is the 20% off the job training. We don't ask you to have 20% off your directed hours. And we know that you have very long, very stretchy days. And what we're looking for you to achieve in that 20% is just to demonstrate that you have got increased knowledge, skills and behaviours. We run podcasts on a Tuesday night. Nick Hurd and I, who's the executive director. We run book club. Two of my colleagues, James and John, run that, where we go through all the reading that you have to do. We have women ed sessions. There are so many opportunities for you to complete the off-the-job hours. If that's something that the head is worried about, that's an easy conversation to have, and Sharon can support you with that. But it's, you know, when I talk to learners, it's generally, I've got so much stuff, I just haven't got it into my learning journal. And remember that, you know, you work in term time, but the apprenticeship works the whole year round. So if you're doing reading or watching podcasts during your Easter break, as long as it's not bank holidays, then you can record that as off the job. So please don't let that put you off, because that's an easy thing to fix.
Rachel, can I just say I work in a not very supportive environment, which Rachel's aware of, and I'm doing okay on the masters, and I'm learning a lot from it, and I'm managing to be a bit Nick and be more pirate and slip really positive things into school. So it's not a complete requirement that you need a supportive head. You just need to get them to sign the bit of paper.
And I think that Jeanette just made a really good point, as she always does, in that the school benefits from you being on this programme. The new knowledge and skill that you bring to the school and is helps to move the school forward. And that's something we talk about.
I was just going to say, Rachel, if you're thinking, I know my head teacher, I know just without even asking them that they're not going to support this, or I know that my line manager, that's exactly what I thought. And actually, as soon as I said, you know, actually, you've already paid for this, you might as well get something out of it from via me. Suddenly, their little eyes lit up, and they couldn't sign the bit of paper quickly enough. So don't, I mean, unless you actually know they're not supportive, don't assume, because you might be pleasantly surprised.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Right.
Vivian, is there anything else we need to tell people?
Can I just say, just because I've just had some messages, don't forget to select Women Ed as the option, not just Twitter, not just when we talk to you, we will ask you and we will make sure, and hopefully most of the time it'll be me in anyway, but just, I don't want you to miss out on being on that Women Ed cohort if that's, you know, what you want to be on, which is why you're here tonight. So it's not too late if you forget on day one, but just drop it into conversation if it's not me that you speak to or anyone else, just so we make sure you're on the right programme.
And another question is whether there are MPQH credits from this. No, because they're different programs.
No.
But this program covers all the MPQH standards.
Yeah, and you can use the credits from this program to other programs, but you can't bring in credits from MPQH. Naomi, you were saying it's a trust policy not to pay for teachers' masters. You're not asking them to pay for teachers' masters. You're asking them to use the apprenticeship levy, which will be taken from them in tax, to draw down upon to pay for this senior leadership program. So I think that's all about semantics and the way you frame it. They don't have to pay anything. You just have to ensure that they have levy available to fund the program. The closing date is the 19th of April, Sharon, is it?
Yep.
And the link to where you applied is in the emails I sent you with the Zoom link. But I'll put all that information again on Twitter, and I know Sharon will, and we'll put the super image that Hannah has created to show you the application process so that you can follow that through with everyone. And we'll send you all of the information, my slides, the National College links and programs, and some of the ways in which you can contact Women Ed in the different channels. So we'll try and keep you up to date, and the recording, the link to the recording of this also.
So can I just answer two more questions? And the first day of learning will be in July, and then your first module will probably be the end of September, and we'll do some keeping in touch during the summer. In terms of what else would that levy have been used for, the levy has to be used for professional development. So it may have been used to fund other professional development, but that's all it can be used for.
Apprenticeships, actual apprenticeships.
Yeah, apprenticeships. Just a question there, Sharon, when would we find out if we get a place after application?
So once we've gone through making sure eligibility and support of your school, you would know, it depends on how quick you do the process, but you could know within days or within a couple of weeks. So it's quite a quick process.
Yeah.
A huge thank you to all of the current women on the programme who've given up their time to talk with you, and to Claire and Christella and Rachel and Hannah and Sharon, who are here to support as well. Really appreciate you giving up your time, and we're all here as well for you to be able to just keep talking to us on Twitter. Email womenedleaders@gmail.com if you've got a very specific question. Put all that in the email we send after this for you. Thanks ever so much for joining in, and we look forward to seeing some of you in July for the start of the next Women Ed cohort. That would just be brilliant. Thanks very much, everybody.
Thank you, Vivian. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming.
Will you press stop record?